Awakening was the last song to be written for the record, and after the first pre-production with Sagan in November, it felt like the record needed something that was kind of just something to contrast everything that was going on with all the heavy guitar and drums and the technical stuff and everything. And I sat down and I wrote out this progression, and I called up Joseph and I said, "Hey man, here's the idea. Let's do an acoustic song." And he was like, "I'm gonna be in town tomorrow. Let's get there and write it." I think you had a show, actually. You were playing a show, and so I came to your place afterwards, about 1 a.m. or so, and we sat there for 4 hours and wrote the entire song.
We did it, just acoustic guitar and vocal, and we recorded it, and it was flawless. And then the hard job was going back and figuring out what exactly we had just put down. Obviously he wrote the harmony, wrote the chord changes, I had the melodies, but we had to figure out, okay, so what tempo is this verse at? Tempo is this chorus at? And we ran into trouble because a lot of times, when you go to record, you hit record, you have a click track, and you just think everything's all hunky-dory, but that's not what we had heard originally in our heads. The chorus was much, much quicker than the verse, but there's this stubborn part of your brain that just wants it to, no, we must have been wrong. If that's true, we must have been wrong. But nothing is more important than how something feels and what you originally heard.
What he's saying, this was also one of those songs that it's a simple song when you listen to it, but recording it was extremely tough to try to get the feeling right of what he's saying with the tempos, because when we actually did the demo that we've been listening to, it was a live
This was the click.
Yes, exactly.
Just here.
It was the live recording, it just naturally, our natural rubato, or just kind of,
the tempos were perfect. Yeah, it was perfect.
So recording it was very frustrating. It was a very frustrating time, and then I think, the natural retard at the end too, that kind of happens.
Right.
That we really wanted to nail down and get that perfect. The very simple song. It's just, literally, it's. I don't know how many vocals are on it, but
it's harmonically complex.
Yeah, it's the chord progression
it's
there
just
is not very natural.
It's 4 voices and maybe 3 guitars.
Yeah. I think the longest track of the record and probably the biggest song. This was our the way that we wanted to have this, and we'll explain how it kind of all came about. But we call it Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 as kind of a nod to prog, and it's they were all related in a sense, so it's not just random stuff that's just put in there. But we started off with Part 2 of the song, which is kind of the bulk. It has the verse, the chorus, it has the actual song in it. This was the first song that I think the band ever wrote. I think that it was kind of breaking the ice, and I think that we had it was just this idea. It was basically a 1 and a 4 going back in G minor, so it's pretty much just following harmonically. It's just a G minor chord with C minor, and we had. I played it for Joseph, and he came up with this.
You had the main riff,
yeah,
and then we ended up with the idea of kind of like a King Diamond, Welcome Home, where it modulates up the 4th, in the second half of the verse, and that gives it a little bit of variation, and then it works harmonically going into the next section.
The intro to the song is a 1 flat 6 5 going on for the first half, and we're in G minor, and it's kind of just a very arpeggiated movement in 16th notes. And when we recorded this, we needed a great sounding acoustic guitar, and I didn't have one at the time that would have worked at all for it. They just sounded horribly whenever they were mic'd up. And so the tracking engineer knew a guy at Guitar Center down there, and we went down, we auditioned a bunch of guitars, and we found this Taylor, and we rented it, and then pretty much right after we got done doing, we did all the acoustic guitar on the record on this. After we got done with the record, I loved it so much that we had to go buy it. So the cool thing about the first verse here, the acoustic verse, is that it also modulates to its parallel major,
Right.
at the kind of halfway through. And then we end it pretty much on a 5 sus4, going into a dominant chord, which will go right into the kind of Chopin influence type 16th note guitar melody that's going on. We used that as kind of a theme in a sense, and it kind of kicks into the main riff. This is, to me, probably the most straightforward song, actually. It might be the longest one, but it's actually the most straightforward, or it's pretty much a guitar, or it's pretty much an intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus.
And it has like the most commercial chorus. Like there's nothing. What I'm calling our songs odd. There's nothing odd about the chorus. It's very like, you know, just chest voice. Like here's a melody. Here's the guitar chords behind it. It's almost, I don't want to say 80s in a way, but it is definitely the most like normal form song in its core. But yeah, there's some auxiliary stuff that's just a little out there. Like, you know, there's like a bolero guitar solo.
There's just another note. I love acoustic guitar solos. I love players like I mentioned before, Di Meola, Paco de Lucia, and it's so I love the sound of acoustic guitar also behind electric. So I was like, I don't care. I want to have it in there, so I'm going to do it. This is kind of how it went. There's a section here where we were with Sagan that's pretty infamous during pre-production, and it's an area where the timing becomes an odd time section, and it's dubbed 19 as fucked in all production notes. So that was a little Sagan had come up with that. And,
it's the weirdest little time signature quirk. I don't know if you could actually plan or write that out. It's just a tick, like 1/16th note.
Yep. Part 1 of the song was all set in G minor, and ended up having this idea that I wanted to go into, which was to go into an F minor halfway through, and so I had this thing down, and I just thought it would be really great for the song to start it off. This was another thing that I'd given to Sagan, and he had no idea what it was. It was kind of just sprung on him during the studio. Like Joseph and I would write this stuff, and we'd always just kind of, we would pre-pro it, and we'd forget to tell Adam that, you know, we had all of a sudden added a minute and a half to a song. And so Adam was set to leave to fly back to Minneapolis, and we were about 2 hours before his flight, and we're like, oh, Adam, by the way, we have pretty much a song that you have to record that you've never heard before.
Never sent him like the final like demos, like
somehow we escaped our minds.
Because I had actually like tracked the shaker on the pre-production demo, and I just never sent it to him for some reason, and yeah, he pulled that off like the last minute.
The last minute for the first half of Into Time, and I just remember and it was exactly what it needed to be, because I actually had no idea. I was like, I don't know what he's supposed to do right here. Adding in certain parts that should be accented, which I didn't really hear at all. All I saw in there was just the 6 couplets that were just going on. To me, it's a very cool kind of intro almost to Into Time. You know, it's kind of how I view part 1 to the.
Some of my favorite bass moments are on there. Like Crawford did some really great counterpoint bass in there. And his vibrato is just unbelievable.
It's amazing. Yeah, very, very cool. I'm very proud. It's a very cool kind of like instrumental passage into it. I think it's a really cool way to start it out.
The other thing about this song is that it has a lot of arranged percussion. There's the mallets, the shakers, and they really bookend the arrangement.
Sure, yeah.
And he was talking about the parallel major chord, and that's really highlighted by the mallets bringing in the cymbal that rides up and crescendos into that downbeat. It just brings home that modulation. The lyrics are, it's about like the end, like it's like the arc of life, and at the very end, how like once you finally have like everything situated, everything that you've accomplished, and then that's it. Like you're done, and like you should be able to enjoy those things, but like no, that's the end. It's like, here we are. Like, now what?